You know, I like to call this hour the national conversation, because there really are some conversations that we as a nation need to have. And by golly, this is one of them. Here's my question to start this off. What do you think of hate crimes legislation? If you're like me, and if you're like most Americans, you probably ask, when you hear about this, what do we need it for, right? I mean, if it's illegal to kill somebody, if it's illegal to rob somebody, if it's illegal to beat somebody up, why do you need another law on top of that law? It should have nothing to do with hate. Why do you need a law that compounds the other law by examining intent? It's a good question. I hear a lot of people say that. I mean, you almost go back to a case like hate crimes cases and you ask, he either did it, or she either did it, or she didn't do it, right? Well, here's why sometimes we need to have to consider something like hate crimes legislation. Because in some places, in some communities, certainly in our nation's past in this country, and even now, some local laws, some local prosecutors, some local police create a situation where if you're not one of them, then the law is going to be stacked against you. And that is where, with hate crimes legislation, sometimes the feds arguably have to step in to make things more equal or more just. All right? Two different points of view on that. Now, watch this report by my colleague and friend, Soledad O'Brien, and then tell me what you think of this.
Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, a place that's welcomed immigrants for generations. And then, one night in July 2008,
truly in my heart, I believe they beat him up because he was Latino.
Crystal Dillman's fiancé, Luis Ramirez, was walking down this street when he came across a group of white high school football players.
I heard this screaming and yelling, the ethnic, F this, Mexican that, spick this, the whole 9 yards.
That's what they were saying?
Yes.
Ramirez and the boys started fighting. When it was over, Luis was on the ground, barely breathing. 2 days later, he was dead. Do you think about the way he died?
Every day. I think about seeing him in the hospital bed, and I mean, I don't wish that on my worst enemy.
From the beginning, there were questions about how local police handled the case, taking 2 weeks to arrest suspects despite multiple eyewitnesses, like Eileen Burke, a retired Philadelphia police officer.
For 30 or so crime scenes that you've been involved in the 8 years you're a police officer, how does this one compare?
Like a joke.
More questions were raised at the April trial of the 2 young men, Brandon Pekarsky and Derek Donchak. A third defendant who took a federal plea deal testified that Shenandoah police urged the boys to get their story straight. Pekarsky and Donchak were convicted of the least serious charge against them, simple assault, and received minimum sentences of 6 and 7 months, respectively.
Do you think it was a cover-up?
I do believe that was.
Now the Department of Justice agrees, unsealing indictments yesterday charging Pekarsky and Donchak with a hate crime. The indictment also alleges 3 Shenandoah police officers, including the police chief, conspired to obstruct justice. One, Lieutenant Bill Moyer, accused of lying to the FBI and destroying evidence. The sneakers, authorities say, the boys used to kick Ramirez to death. The officers have pled not guilty. Lawyer Gladys Limon has been at Dillman's side throughout the case.
It's been very difficult for her, so this has provided some sense of relief and will provide her with a sense of peace this Christmas.
Pekarsky and Donchak could have been released from state prison in just weeks. The new federal charges carry a maximum sentence of life. Soledad O'Brien, CNN, New York.
And there is more. When the beating happened, one of the officers involved in the alleged cover-up was dating the mother of one of the suspects. Another one of the police officers investigating this crime, he had a son who played on the football team with the guys who were involved in the attack. Neither one of them recused themselves from the case, however. A look at why hate crimes may or may not be necessary, and how sometimes we may need a higher authority to bring about justice. Or do we? You've been letting me know what you think, and I'm going to check on those on our own little tweet board when we come back.